Yo, 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 yo. Check, check, check. Microphone check. 1, 2, 1, 2. Welcome, everyone. This is Music is Life, brought to you by Unfiltered Foolishness Podcast. I'm your host, D. And we're going to get into this thing, man. You know what I'm saying? This Purple Rain, be singing for the becoming. That's our intro, but let's get to these fun facts. For sports, New England Patriots wins their third Super Bowl in 4 years. Jerry Rice retired. The woman who accused Kobe Bryant of rape settles her lawsuits against him. The case was originally started in 2003. Martha Stewart was released from prison after serving 5 months for lying about a stock sale. On the other hand, Lil' Kim was convicted for lying to a grand jury about the shooting outside of a New York radio station and was sentenced to 366 days. Eric Rudolph pled guilty to the 1996 Olympic bombing and was sentenced to life in prison. Michael Jackson was acquitted by a jury for molestation of a 13-year-old boy. Boy, there's a lot of court stuff going on. Alright. YouTube, the American online video sharing and social media platform, was launched by Steve Chen, Chad Hurley, and Joed Kareem. It was headquartered in San Bruno, California. It was originally started as a dating site until the first video was uploaded to YouTube. And that first video that was uploaded was titled Me at the Zoo. Reddit was also launched that year as well. For my gamers, Microsoft released the Xbox 360. The first published use of the term sexting appeared in an article in the Australian Sunday Telegraph magazine. Hurricane Katrina killed 1,836 people throughout the southern United States. Less than a month later, Hurricane Rita made landfall in southeastern Texas, right on the border of Texas and Louisiana, which caused more flooding and destroying recently repaired levees in New Orleans, which only made things even worse. Some notable deaths for 2005 was Pope John Paul II, Johnny Carson, Walmart Eric John Walton, Rosa Parks, Richard Pryor, Ossie Davis, and Johnny Cochran. And those are our fun facts for 2005. And as I said, our intro music was brought to us by Beanie Siegel, which off his Becoming album, which is titled Purple Rain, featuring Bun B. All right. So let's get this going. And we in here. So how's everybody doing tonight? One of the guests, he might still hop in, not sure, but he wasn't able to get on right now. He was still outdoors on family things with the fam. But actually, let me see if I can get this sent to him. Nah, it's okay. If he can get in, he get in. He know how I go. Anyway, so let's go on and get this thing started, right? Just we running way behind. I was supposed to start it a long time ago because I was doing another thing tonight as well. Rap. Let's go ahead and go with rap. Since I started with Beanie Siegel, right? "2005 was a strong year for music all the way around for me. As I was scrolling through the list, I found some things that I really liked. I had so many of these albums, and it was some of the music was even surprising to me, right? That I came across for the year. Like I found some hidden gems in R&B that I wasn't aware of. But like I said, we're gonna start with R&B, with rap. So a couple albums that was also, I have a top 6, actually, let me say that for one. But a couple other albums that did not make my top 6 that I want to point out or bring some light to that dropped that year as well was Bun B's Trill, right? Being a Texas guy, it's always hard to leave a Texas person off. But sometimes it just is what it is. You got to be honest sometimes. Chameleon also dropped his first solo album, Sound of Revenge. 3-6 Mafia dropped The Most Known Unknowns. Big album for them that year. It had the singles Stay Fly, Papa My Collar, You know what I'm saying? Those joints I like, and I also like Side to Side. Twister dropped the day after with Lavish featuring Pharrell. Girl Tonight featuring Trey Songz, and probably one of my favorite songs off the joint was Heartbeat. David Banner dropped Certified. One of the lead singles was Play. I like Touch It with him and Jazzy Faye. And I liked him on Everything with him and Twister. Let's see what else I have. You know what I'm saying? Even like I said, I left Bun B off, and I left off his group mate as well. Pimp C with the Sweet James Jones stories. Texas people, don't kill me. Don't kill me, Texas people. I know y'all gonna be in the comments, in the chats. Y'all gonna be on YouTube and Facebook. But you know, it is what it is. Can't pull my card. I'm just giving an honest opinion. What else? Ed Beatty single dropped this year as well. Like I said, I opened it up with Purple Rain, which is one of the joints off there that I really liked. And he had the single Feel It in the Air that I really liked. All right. So let's get into this thing, right? So I'm gonna start at the bottom. Coming in number 6. Down south with it. And I'm gonna go with arguably now. At the time he wasn't considered that, but now he's definitely considered that. Arguably one of the greatest of all time, top 5 rappers dead or alive, with Lil Wayne. That year in 2005, he dropped the Carter 2. Fireman was the first single. I believe that was the first single. But he also had Shooter with Robin Thicke. But the songs I really enjoyed off that album was Mo Fire, Grown Man featuring Currency, Receipt, and Hit 'Em Up. That was actually Wayne's what? 1, 2, 3, 4. This was his 5th album. Boy been on the run. 5th solo album. You know what I'm saying? You had Get Off the Corner, you had Lights Out, 500 Degrees, and you had the Carter 1. And like I said, it's Carter 2, 5th album for Wayne. You can hear even more of his lyrical growth and him start to become the artist that he really became now before he hit his pop fame, which occurred off his next album. All right. At 5, I went with 50 Cent's The Massacre. Right? Everybody who knows me know I was never really the biggest 50 Cent fan. Right? And I expressed why on previous episodes of this, but it is what it is. The Massacre, I always felt I'm probably one of very few who thinks his album The Massacre was better than Get Rich or Die Trying. Now, it was nowhere near as big. It had nowhere near as many of the big singles. But to me, musically, he stepped up on this album. He had joints on there like Piggy Bank. He had I'm Supposed to Die Tonight that I really liked. One of my favorite joints, probably my favorite joint was Get in My Car. He had Baltimore Love Thing on there that I liked. Big album. He was originally wanted to release it in February to coincide with the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, which is why he titled the album The Massacre. The label didn't want him to put it out so soon, being that they had just released Game's album earlier that year, and 50 had worked with him and gave him so many albums or songs that was supposedly had made the Massacre originally. But at 5 comes 50 Cent's Massacre. At 4, I like this album, but I was actually considering leaving it off because I like some of the other albums better, i.e. Bun B and Pimp C, Twister. But it was a big album for this artist. And to me, it's probably, in my opinion, definitely better than his debut album. So this is his sophomore album. And number 4, I'm going with Kanye West and Late Registration. So Gold Digger was probably his biggest single off that album. But though that wasn't the joints I really liked the most, but I did enjoy Gold Digger. It was funny, and of course it was a big smash, and everybody was singing it everywhere. Me, I was no different. But the joints I really cared for was Touch the Sky with Lupe, which is the introduction to most people to the world of Lupe Fiasco, which definitely was an introduction to him for me, and I became a fan of him after that. I'm also really enjoyed Bring Me Down, which featured Brandy. It's kind of hard to go wrong with Brandy. And another song he had that I enjoyed was Addiction. Like I say, his sophomore album on Rockefeller, better than College Dropout to me, but some people don't think so. But at 4, I had Kanye West. 3 is another Midwest artist. A lot of Midwest dropped that year, and funny enough, Kanye helped this artist. He worked on his album with this artist. So number 3, I'm going with another Shot Town rapper with Common and his album B. B to me is Common's best album. Definitely the one I enjoyed the most. I've enjoyed a couple of his albums. I've had a couple other albums. Like Electric Circus. I've had that album. I had like Water for Chocolate. I didn't get into his first couple albums. One thing I didn't know about him as much, but when I went back and listened to like Can I Borrow a Dollar, it just didn't grasp me because it's so old. But B was just a hit for me from the moment I heard all the joints. I had that album and I played that album probably more than any other album that came out in 2005. Definitely for his full album, I played that more. Now there's an album that I played a lot, but it was more so just certain songs. But I definitely played this album the most. Okay, what we got? All right. So the songs I liked off that album was more of probably say the singles because those are the best songs to me, or not the best song, but the one that stood out the most. I listened to probably the most, which was "Testify." I listened to that a whole lot. That's probably my favorite song off that album. I definitely like "The Corner," and I love "Go" with Kanye. So at 3 was Common's B. At 2, I just spoke about this artist a second ago. G Unit affiliate, Aftermath affiliate, West Coast affiliate. So at 2, I'm going with the debut album of the game, the documentary. Now, it's a lot to be said about Game. A lot of people don't like Game, especially one of my uncle Padres, Ulam, who goes by Jay Senior on Facebook. He says he's corny, right? I get it. Like Game does a lot of name dropping. He does a lot of sneak dissing for no reason. Well, I ain't gonna say sneak diss. He just like dissing people for no reason. He like name dropping a whole lot. But this was his debut album, and in my opinion, was a classic. By far his best album, but definitely a classic. He had the classic "This Is How We Do" on there. He had "Couldn't Get Far" on there. He had "Hated to Love It" on there. All 50 Cent hand in. He had Busta Rhymes featured on the album. Then he had the joints I really like was like West Side Story, Where I'm From. He had Higher, which is produced by Timbaland. He had production by Swiss out there. He had Dre backing him. Couldn't go wrong with this album. Definitely a classic, right? So that's number 2 for hip hop with Game. Now, number 1, right? This man had a whole movement to himself. Like, he's definitely has never been the greatest rapper of all time. But he had everybody in the world saying his ad libs, saying rocking his t-shirts, his merch. Had people believing that he's one of the biggest drug dealers ever. If you don't know, number one was the debut solo album and classic by Young Jeezy, Thug Motivation 101, TM 101, which is what Thug Motivation came from. So, Jeezy. I mean, a lot of people had heard of Jeezy by this point because he had a lot going on for himself at the time. He was down with being Mev. Speaking of which, Big Meech is the home now, which is crazy that we talking about this in 2004. That Meech is already that went to jail, served his time, and came home. I said 2004, 2024, and this album dropped in 2005. So we slowly but surely creeping up on the 20th anniversary of Thug Motivation on Jeezy's first solo album, right? So first single, and then what? Manny Fresh was out of here. I mean, it didn't hurt that he's already at the same time coming back. Well, I say coming back, being pushed with the dang on boys with Boys in the Hood, right? He had already did that group album with them, so that was ringing heavy at the same time too. People remember him from the collaboration with Gucci Mane, So Icy. But the motivation, man, what can he say? Nothing but class. He had Manny Fresh did the lead single. He had Akon on one of the songs I really enjoyed, which was Soul Survivor. He had T.I. on another joint, him and Lil Scrappy on another song that I really enjoyed, which is Bang. Who else was on this album with him? He had so many people. He had the boy, his artist Slick Puller was on that album. He had another joint that I really enjoyed. Was probably the one I listened to the most, Go Crazy. Probably my favorite song off of it. Definitely. So, I don't know where you've been if you never heard these albums, especially the Jeezy, right? So if you've been under a rock, and you've never heard these albums, these are the top 6 albums of 2005, in my opinion. At least to me, I should say. This is a personal opinion of what I think, but it is what it is, people. So, again, the rundown, number 1 was Jeezy Thug Motivation. 2 was The Game with the documentary. 3 was Commons B. 4 was Kanye West with Late Registration. 5 was 50 Cent The Massacre. And 6 was Lil Wayne with The Carter 2. So, well, R&B coming, a quick R&B break, since it's just me by myself. Let's go. All right, let's get into R&B. Let's go and get this thing in there. So that was Tweet. Turn the Lights off her It's Me Again project, which dropped this year, 2005. Of course, she didn't make my top list, but that was her album. I really like Tweet. I really did like Tweet. I enjoyed that album. Another album that dropped that year that I really liked was A. Marie. She dropped her Touch album, with the lead single being One Thing. I listened to that a lot. That was big all over the radio. I seen that video probably about 1 billion times, right? So another album that dropped. What else? Before I get into my actual 5 that made the list. Genuine, right? He dropped another album that year. He dropped Back to Basics. And I enjoyed it. It was hard for me not to like these next 4 that I'm list with Genuine. It was hard for me to leave all 4 of these off, right? So you can actually say they made the list, which would make the list possibly 9. But yeah, that's cool. We can say 9. But Genuine was Back to Basics. He dropped that year. The songs I did off there was Secrets, which is probably my favorite song off there. Him and Jazzy Faye. I listen to that song so much. He had Want You to Be There off that song that I really like. He had I'm in Love, which is a big song. I believe it also ended up being a single at one point in time too. An album that was very surprising to me that I went and reviewed. Right, I never listened to the album when it came out because I always felt this artist just wasn't for me. And not necessarily that he just didn't make good music. The fact that he was so much younger and he was coming from an R&B little group of kids, right? So, speaking about Omarion, right? He dropped the O album a year. Now, he had his lead single, which was O, which did very good for him. Really not much I can say. I enjoyed it, but I enjoyed his second single so much more, which was one of the songs I really liked that I wanted to highlight was Touch, which is made by Frail and Neptunes. To this day, I probably have heard that song probably about 10, 15,000. Well, no, I'm not going to even say that because I've heard it so much just off the radio and the video, but me, myself, I had that song on mix CD. I made mix CDs. And I had that song. I listened to that song so much. I probably played it at least 15,000 times. While I was researching that album, I played it at least 3 or 4 times. I really enjoyed that song, Touch. He also had a song on there called I'm Trying To that I really liked. And he had a song called Slow Dance that I really liked. That was actually a very good album, surprisingly to me. I know I'm real late to it, and I know a lot of people probably like, man, yeah, we knew that was a good album, but I didn't because I didn't listen to it, right? Being that he's coming off B2K, I wasn't a huge B2K fan. They were just too young for me. But Omarion's Touch, album, I should say, was on that list. Another debut album that dropped that year, hailing from Florida, was T-Pain with the rapper turned singer. Sang, I should say. Now, I remember this big singles. I'm Sprung, I'm in Love with a Stripper. Those songs just rang everywhere. They even had to do a remix with I'm in Love with a Stripper with Twista, Paul Wall, Pimp C, R. Kelly. Big single. Big song, CD song. Now, it was hard for me to leave this CD off because a lot of the songs on this album, pretty much this whole album really, got me through, I won't say a hard time, so hard, but it was a little trying time in my life, right? And it was, believe it or not, it was years later that this city stood out for me. So this city I played a whole lot in 2008 while I was deployed to Iraq for the second time. So 3 years later, this album was still playing heavy to me. I had a friend named Maldonado. Me and him had this thing that we used to listen to T-Pain every Sunday. We used to call it T-Pain Sundays when we was in Iraq working. Because normally we would be the first ones that work, and we'd work for a couple hours by ourselves before we bring other people in. But we'd always have T-Pain Sundays, where I would have my little iPod up, have my little Bluetooth speakers going on in the office, and we just be in there rocking out. And a lot of these songs, it was a T-Pain mixture, right? But a lot of these songs made that list. So the songs that I really enjoyed from that album that made that list was Fly Away, Dance Floor, Blow Your Mind. Blow Your Mind was one of Fly Away is probably my favorite song. That, Dance Floor, Blow Your Mind, Ridge Road. Very good album. And like I say, it got me through some hard times, through a whole deployment for sure. And it was hard for me to leave it off. Only reason why I did leave it off is because I listened to it like this in 2005, like I did in 08. It definitely made the list. Because I ended up going out, oddly, I made my first deployment to Iraq in 2005. End of 2005, so I was deployed from November 05 to November 06. But T-Pain played a major part for that. Another album that I want to highlight or mention was Keisha Cole's The Way It Is, which is on the list, right? I know a lot of people don't like her. Well, I can say she has lots of fans. I know I have one particular friend who can't stand her by the name of Valencia Smith Davis. Yes, I said her whole name because she can't stand Keisha Cole for why I don't know. I'm not going to say why she says, but I totally disagree with her. But that album was a good album to me. Very solid album from Keisha. The joints I really liked was To Be Over, Love. My boy Slim, he really liked that song Love too, like I do. Like I know a lot of people hated it, especially because of how she did the chorus, with her voice changing a little bit. But that's what made me like the song. Like she just gave her raw emotion to it. She didn't clean it up. She did her thing on her. I also really like I Changed My Mind. Good songs, good songs. So let's get into the top 5 before we wrap this thing up. At 5 was a debut album by a young man from where was he from? I'm trying to think of his city, the name of the actual city. But anyway, he's from Virginia, right outside of Fort Lee, right? And it goes by the name of Choke 'em Out Trey Songs. He became Choke 'em Out Trey, Trigger Trey, many years later. But in 2005, he just named his Trey Songz. He dropped his debut album, I Gotta Make It. Now, my friend Valencia, she can't stand him as well. She's a hater. She says Trey makes her ass itch. Right? Something's wrong with that child. But I Gotta Make It. Very solid debut album. Very solid. He had his joint Just Gotta Make It was his lead single with him and Twister. A lot of Chi-Town love happened in 2005. A lot of Midwest love happened in 2005. But his lead single was Just Gotta Make It, which was a song that I really enjoyed. My favorite song on that album was I Just Wanna Cut. Me and my boy Hood Bush, we really like these Trey songs, right? But I Just Wanna Cut was probably my, I ain't gonna say probably, it was my favorite song off that album, right? Another song I really enjoyed was Gotta Go, Cheat on You, and All the Ifs. So yes. At 5, we got Trey songs, but I Gotta Make It. All right. Coming in at 4, right? I even surprised myself with this pick. I actually thought my boy Slim was gonna be on because this definitely would be a surprise for him as well. Slim will really be surprised that I chose this artist because this is one of his favorites, but I never really got into her like that, so I've never really just listened to her music. But this album here was huge, right? 1, 2, 3. The first, the first 4 songs on this album was insane to me. So highlight the 4th song. But the person I'm talking about at 4 was Mariah Carey. And I'm going with the Emancipation of Mimi album, right? Like that album was huge. Like I said, I'm not a big Mariah Carey fan by far. Well, I'm not even a Mariah Carey fan by far. I'm not gonna act like I am, right? But that Emancipation was huge. Emancipation of Mimi. That was her 10th LP. Uh, I mean, it just had slaps after slaps, single after single, all over the place. But the joints I really like was It's Like That with her, Fat Man School, JD. We Belong Together was another one that I really enjoyed. Like Shake It Off. It's just crazy. Like to me, those first 4 set her album off. Like It's Like That, We Belong Together, Shake It Off. And then I really enjoyed her 4th album, Mine Again. Right? Then she had I kind of liked Circles. That was actually a decent song, right? What other song I kind of liked? I Wish You Knew. I kind of like that one. Of course, she had the huge single. Don't Forget About Us off that album as well. So Lonely was a decent song too, right? So for that, she had a lot of joints on there that I actually like. So a person who wasn't a fan actually enjoyed. So the Emancipation of Mimi was huge. Okay. Number 3. Now, because at first I wasn't going to even put it on the list, right? But when I went to looking at the songs and going through the songs and realized that like maybe 9 or 10, I think it's only 12 songs on the album. I could be wrong, but I want to say the vast majority of this album, I was like, damn, these are good songs. I can actually listen to this whole album. It definitely would have been on Valencia's list that she put a list together for this album, for this year. But at number 3, I'm going with Jamie Foxx and the Unpredictable album. That Jamie Foxx album, man, was crazy. Of course, you had the big songs like Unpredictable, which is the title track. I really enjoyed this song as well. Uh, Warm Bed was the song that I really, really liked. Of course, he had the single DJ Player Love Song. I think no, With You is either with no one of them songs I wasn't a big fan of. I think it might have been With You, whichever one. I think they had Snoop on it. Right? Yeah, With You. Can I Take You Home was another joint I did like. Love Changes. It was an okay song. Like I could listen to it. Him and Mary J. They did a interpolation of how you say it, or they did a redo of the old school song, The Love Changes. Him and Mary J. Blige. Then I really liked Extravaganza. I really liked Extravaganza with him and Kanye. Um, Definitely Three Letter Word was my joint. Um, between Extravaganza and Storm was probably my favorite songs off this album. Storm, I really enjoyed that song. You Still Got It was a good song. Heaven, Wish You Were Here. So for the most part, like I say, this whole album was solid. Like With You, the fourth song was that one I wouldn't listen to, and there's like one other one. But at 3, it was Jamie Foxx, Unpredictable. All right, number 1 and number 2. I listened to the albums stupid amounts of times, right? So it was kind of hard to put them in order, right? But but I end up putting them in this way because number 1 ended up being one of my favorite artists, and number 2, this was his debut album, right? But it was still hands down a very good album. So at number 2, like I said, debut album, another VA person from Tappahannock, Chris Brown, with his debut album, self-titled debut album, I should say. I mean, what can really be said about Chris Brown, right? The person he was at the time when he came out, nobody saw him becoming the person he is now. The boy is probably, oh man, I don't even know what to say where he's at right now, far as in the dang on how people see him right now. He's seen as the new age Michael Jackson, right? But his debut album, number 2 on the charts, like I say, it came out and at the end of the year, which was big. Big. They really Jive really had a lot of faith in this boy to drop his debut album out in the fourth quarter, right? So, like I say, Chris Brown, his first single, "Run It," featuring Joel Santana, produced by Scott Storch. Huge, 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 huge. We can go down this whole track list. Pretty much every song on here, top to bottom, you can just run with it. Like I say, "Run It," the single. Yo, Excuse Me Miss, crazy. Young Love, really dope. Give Me That, another Scott Storch beat. Um, he even had the remix to it that featured Lil Wayne. Crazy. Uh, Your Man Ain't Me. Like I said, it's kind of hard to say anything wrong with it. Another joint I really enjoyed. Like I said, I enjoyed the whole album. Winner, produced by Brian Michael Cox. One of my favorite, very underrated person, right? Very underrated. Ain't No Way. I'm not a singer, right? But I've sung that song probably hundreds of times. Hundreds of times. Ain't no way. I'm not going to do it on here and embarrass myself, but I definitely have sung that song hundreds of times in the car by myself, right? Then you have Is This Love? Of course, Poppin'. There's not much you can say. That album was just crazy to me. Winner, Ain't No Way, Yo, Poppin'. Those were the standout songs to me, right? So we're down to number 1, right? and it's by one of my favorite artists. I've never seen him in person, and if I ever get a chance to, I will. But I'm going with Anthony Hamilton. Anthony Hamilton goes number one for me with the Ain't Nobody Wearing album. I'm a huge Anthony Hamilton fan. So this was his third album, right? I thought it was his second, but okay, his third one. Ain't Nobody Worrying. The album starts off strong in my point. I mean, like I say, it's only one song that I don't really care for this album, but I can listen. I can let it play because I'm gonna listen to that whole album, right? I really, really, really enjoy this album. This is definitely the album I listened to the most that year, and it's not even close. Him and Chris Brown were the albums I listened to the most that year as far as R&B. He starts out with "Where Did It Go Wrong?" Classic, in my opinion. This whole album is a classic, but I love that song. Second, my favorite, if not my favorite song, is number two. Probably my favorite song is "Since I song by him is "Since I've Seen You," which is off the what's that? Coming From Where I'm From album, right? But he opened my second favorite is Southern Stuff, right? Crazy song. My second favorite song, if not number one. Then he had "Can't Let You Go," "Ain't Nobody Worrying," which is produced by Raphael Sadiq, another one of my favorite artists. Then "The Truth," definitely was one of the highlight. The only song I really didn't too much care for was "Preacher's Daughter," right? But like I said, I can let it play because I'm gonna listen to that whole album, so I can actually just let it play. But after that, he comes with a gospel song, right? And to this day, "The Truth" and the gospel song "Pass Me Over." I get emotional every time I hear those songs, especially "Pass Me Over." "Pass Me Over" is a very emotional song to me. To me. Then you got "Everybody." Another one of my favorite joints off that, "Sister Big Bones." I really enjoyed that song. The video was funny to me too. I really like that. "Change Your World," "Never Love Again," "I Know What Love's All About." Can't go wrong with Anthony Hamilton, man. If y'all have not listened to this man or this album, you do yourself a great disservice. But that was the number one album, and it came at the end of the year in December. So that's the number one album for me. So the songs, well, the top five for that in R&B for me was Anthony Hamilton, "Ain't Nobody Worrying," Chris Brown, Jamie Foxx's "Unpredictable," Mariah Carey's "Emancipation of Mimi," and Trey Songz "I Gotta Make It." So those are the albums for me for 2005. This is Music is Life 2005, and we're gonna sign off. Peace.